There are people who walk through life as if they're tuning into a frequency no one else hears. They notice the truth behind the joke, they sense the resentment behind the smile, they pick up the tremor in a voice that says, "I'm fine," when everything inside is falling apart. To most, life is a stage play with clear scripts. To the deep perceiver, life is X-ray vision. Every mask becomes glass. Clarity is a gift, clarity is also a blade. Carl Jung believed that individuals who perceive reality with unusual depth are destined to feel like outsiders. Their awareness disconnects them from the very world they're trying to understand. Insight isolates. But Jung argued something revolutionary. What looks like a flaw is the first step of becoming oneself. He called this journey individuation, the transformation of the psyche into its fullest form, and every transformation begins in conflict. Jung once treated a young woman, we called her Clara earlier, but in truth there were countless Claras across his career. Like many highly perceptive individuals, she thought something was wrong with her. Because she could sense everything, when someone lied, even politely, her body reacted before her mind understood why. When a friend was jealous, she could feel the envy prick her skin like static electricity. When strangers argued in the other room, her stomach tightened as if absorbing their hostility. Her empathy wasn't optional, it was involuntary, automatic, unfiltered. Jung recognized immediately, this wasn't instability, it was overdeveloped intuition. Most people notice only what concerns them. Clara noticed everything. The world was too loud, not in sound, but in truth. Jung proposed that society survives on what he called a collective dream. We participate in shared illusions, polite lies, cultural expectations, psychological censorship. We agree not to mention the obvious, so the structure doesn't collapse. But the deeply intuitive person, they are cursed with wakefulness, they refuse sleep, their eyes stay open, their heart feels what others bury. This creates the first round of awareness. The more you notice, the less you belong. Clara wasn't rejected for being incorrect, she was rejected for being accurate, a truth teller among people who prefer pleasant fiction. Jung observed something alarming. Those who see the shadow clearly often become the shadow for others. People project onto them their insecurities, shame, guilt, and fear. It's easier to call the truth seer, dramatic, paranoid, overreacting, too emotional, than to admit, I am not who I pretend to be. The one who sees too much becomes, not a hero, but a threat. Clarity invites hostility. Jung believed that if Clara didn't develop strength to match her perception, the world would destroy her spirit. He told her, insight without boundaries becomes chaos. Because when you see everyone's inner suffering, you begin to feel responsible for it. When you understand everyone's motives, you begin to lose trust, and when you recognize life's absurdity, you begin to lose hope. Deep perception without psychological scaffolding leads to emotional collapse. The perceiver must learn three arts: containment, discernment, selective vulnerability. Without these, they drown. Here's the paradox Jung emphasized: the world needs people who see deeply, but it rarely knows how to treat them. So the early life story of the deep perceiver becomes predictable. They grow up misunderstood. Adults call them old soul, too sensitive, difficult to handle. Peers sense something different in them, and children punish difference ruthlessly. So they learn to hide, to blend, to silence themselves for belonging. But suppressing perception is impossible. It leaks through the cracks, it demands expression. What begins as a gift turns into a burden, until maturity catches up. Jung said that true growth happens when the intuitive person realizes the isolation isn't punishment, it's the cocoon phase. Pain is the price of metamorphosis. Jung compared the psyche to an alchemical furnace. The old identity burns, the persona melts, the authentic self takes shape. This is the midpoint crisis of every perceptive individual. Do I continue pretending to fit in, or do I walk the treacherous path of becoming real? Most choose the first, a rare few choose the second. Those who walk that second path become what Jung called individuated beings, people who live by inner truth, not social script. But that transformation demands suffering first. Jung was fascinated by myths. He said myths are the psyche talking to itself in images. In nearly every ancient myth, the hero is separated from the ordinary world, cast out, abandoned, or misunderstood. The message is encoded and universal. You must leave the village to find the treasure. If you are comfortable, you are not evolving. The isolated phase isn't the end, it's the beginning. Clara returned to Jung years later. She had changed, not by eliminating her sensitivity, but by wielding it. Her insight no longer crushed her, it guided her. She stopped scanning every person's inner world. She saved her focus for those who earned her trust. Jung said, "Consciousness is not seeing everything, consciousness is seeing what matters." She learned the difference between compassion and self-sacrifice, emotion and intuition, awareness and intrusion. Her gift gained structure, and structure is what turns power into wisdom. Let's pause and talk directly to the listener. If you recognize yourself in Clara, if you've always felt like you're watching life from a step outside, you have likely already begun individuation. You question what others accept. You detect subtle patterns. You refuse to shrink into a comfortable lie. This is not a defect, this is the psyche waking up. Jung believed such people are the future of psychological evolution, not the strongest, not the smartest, the most conscious. Evolution is moving us from instinct to awareness. You are part of that frontier, but the frontier feels like exile. Before it feels like home, the deep perceiver goes through stages. Stage 1, awareness. You notice too much and can't unnotice. Stage 2, alienation. You feel like no one else understands what you see. Stage 3, shadow confrontation. You discover that your insight reveals your own darkness too. Stage 4, integration. You develop boundaries, discernment, and emotional literacy. Stage 5, purpose. You use your perception to build, guide, create, and inspire. Clara reached stage 5, but Jung warned, most people get trapped in stage 2 or 3. They become cynical, bitter, suspicious, convinced humanity is hopeless. Their gift turns inward and becomes rot. Insight without hope becomes nihilism. Here is where philosophy meets psychology. The perceptive person often identifies with great thinkers who challenged society. Socrates, executed for asking uncomfortable questions. Spinoza, excommunicated for refusing to lie about what he saw as truth. Nietzsche, drove himself into madness seeking meaning beyond the collective dream. Simone Weil, starved herself in empathy for the suffering of others. Those who see too much often suffer too much, yet Jung insisted, brilliance doesn't require destruction, wisdom doesn't demand madness. The goal is not to become a martyr of truth, the goal is to become a steward of it. Jung described individuation as a spiral. You revisit your wounds at higher and higher levels of understanding. Each loop reveals new strength, new vulnerability, new responsibility. Insight without strength collapses, strength without insight corrupts. The balanced mind is forged through fire and precision. The perceptive person often identifies with great thinkers who challenged society. Socrates, executed for asking uncomfortable questions. Spinoza, excommunicated for refusing to lie about what he saw as truth. Nietzsche, drove himself into madness seeking meaning beyond the collective dream. Simone Weil, starved herself in empathy for the suffering of others. Those who see too much often suffer too much. Yet Jung insisted, brilliance doesn't require destruction, wisdom doesn't demand madness. The goal is not to become a martyr of truth, the goal is to become a steward of it. Jung described individuation as a spiral. You revisit your wounds at higher and higher levels of understanding. Each loop reveals new strength, new vulnerability, new responsibility. Insight without strength collapses, strength without insight corrupts. The balanced mind is forged through fire and precision. The deep perceiver must become strong enough to see, and soft enough to care. This is the birth of a whole human being. Let's dive deeper into the mechanics of perception. Jung described intuition as perception through the unconscious. Most people rely primarily on conscious signals. Words, gestures, behaviors. The intuitive perceiver draws from hidden signals, tone, micro-expressions, symbolic patterns, emotional residue, and what Jung called the feeling of the situation. This creates an overwhelming challenge. You process more data than others even register exists. Your brain becomes an overcrowded airport, with every plane trying to land at once. No wonder you feel tired. Hyper-awareness burns energy like a furnace. Your mind is working 3 jobs, without permission or pay. Society values those who follow the script, but the deep perceiver must write their own. So almost inevitably, a crisis hits. You look at your life, and realize it isn't yours. The career chosen for approval, the friendships based on convenience, the personality adapted for survival. This crisis is not failure, it is awakening. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Because once you see your real self, you can no longer serve the mask, and the mask will fight back. The biggest resistance comes from within. Your inner critic says, if I show who I am, I'll be rejected. Your inner protector says, don't reveal your strength, it makes others uncomfortable. Your inner shadow says, who are you to think you're different? The psyche fears its own power. Individuation requires a rebellion against your internal prison guards. Freedom begins the moment you stop negotiating with who you are not. Clara's turning point came when she realized something profoundly liberating. It's not her job to make others comfortable with truth. It's her job to be honest with herself and compassionate to others, at the same time, not blunt like a hammer, not silent like a secret, but precise. Jung called this the art of psychological swordsmanship. A sword can destroy, a sword can protect, a sword can carve new paths. Insight must be wielded, not spilled. The world is full of people sleepwalking through existence. But the deep perceiver is awake. This awakening comes with dangers. You may crave escape, to numb the overload. You may feel cursed, misunderstood by everyone. You may doubt your sanity. Because no one else sees what you see. Jung's answer, do not measure your vision by the eyes of those who refuse to look. Truth doesn't require consensus. Let's zoom out even further. Beyond Jung, modern neuroscience shows that highly perceptive individuals have increased connectivity in brain networks that process emotion, prediction, and threat detection. Psychology calls this high sensitivity, but sensitivity is just another word for high-resolution awareness. Your brain is tuned to detect patterns others miss entirely. Society might call that strange, science calls it advanced. So where does this journey lead? Jung believed that if the intuitive person survives the loneliness and integrates the shadow, they become a psychological lighthouse, not a guru, not a savior, a guide, someone who helps others see, not by force, but by presence. Clara eventually became this kind of person. People sought her out without knowing why. They said she made them feel seen, not judged, not exposed, seen. Recognition is the highest form of love, and the perceiver, once wounded by invisibility, becomes the healer of invisibility. To you, listening right now, you are not strange, you are not too much, you are not wrong, you are early, you are developing the psychological capacities. The world will need to survive itself. Not everyone must wake up, but the ones who do, lead the rest out of the burning house. Your loneliness is a sign, you are ahead of your time, and every era needs its pioneers of consciousness. The path is narrow, the burden is real, but the destination is worth it. A life aligned with truth, a self that does not fracture under pressure, a perception that illuminates rather than isolates. Jung believed the final stage of individuation is something sacred, to become a whole human being, who stands firmly in reality, without losing wonder, awake, but still dreaming, aware, but still hoping, wise, but still human. Keep walking. Keep seeing, keep becoming. You are not here to dim the light, you are here to learn how to carry the fire, without burning yourself. The world may not be ready for your perception yet, but one day, someone will look at you and say, thank you, for seeing what no one else could.